Welcome to the Coping Podcast, where we share strategies for coping with the stressors of life, especially the difficulties of parenting. And here is your host, Dr. Lee Weiss.
This is Dr. Lee Weiss. I am the host of the Coping Podcast, where I feature top experts on topics like raising healthy children, parenting, and so much more. Past guests include Dr. Doug Bolton, Dr. Ellie Leibowitz, clinicians Ben Kessler and Michelle Winterstein, Dr. Aaron Fromm, and many more. Just a quick disclaimer, the information provided is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not intended to provide mental health treatment and does not constitute a client-therapist relationship. The information provided is not a replacement for being assessed and evaluated by a licensed professional and is not intended to replace mental health or medical advice. This episode is brought to you by Coping Partners. Coping Partners is a mental health practice in the Chicago area dedicated to helping children, adolescents, and adults. We help manage various challenges, including anxiety, divorce, behavioral issues, relationship problems, and much more. Check out more episodes of our podcast and our website at copingpartners.com, and you can contact us with any questions you have. Before we dive into today's topic, I wanted to introduce our guest, Andrew Fishman. Andrew Fishman is a licensed clinical social worker in Chicago, Illinois. He is also a lifelong gamer who works with clients to understand the impact video games have had on their mental health. He received his master's degree in social work from Loyola University and does direct practice work primarily with adolescents and young adults. Recently, Andrew wrote a book called Parenting a Gamer: Help Your Child Build Healthy Habits, Make Positive Choices, and Find Balance in Virtual Worlds. I did order this book. It's pre-order on Amazon, but not coming out till April. And you can show us, Andrew, if you want, just the kind of the cardboard cover, what it's going to look like. Ooh. So exciting. So we're going to dive into this topic. And again, thank you, Andrew, so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So we've talked with parents in our practice a lot about screen time battles and how sometimes it looks like kids are going through withdrawal when you take their phone or a screen away. Mm-hmm. And technology really is one of these really, I would say, tricky and frustrating parenting areas. We've not had a speaker yet on video gaming. And so we'd love to hear a little bit more about, how you got into this work, how you have expertise in this area, if you don't mind sharing a little about your background.
Sure. So I became a therapist back in 2016, 2017. And my first job, they figured out that I knew what the nerdy clients were talking about. All the young boys, they were talking about Fortnite, and none of the people who were working at the practice knew what the heck they were talking about. So they said, Andrew, you've played Fortnite. Can you see this kid? And sort of handed me all the nerds and all the people that I could communicate with. And I understood the lingo. And that built up pretty naturally into a specialty where I just got, that builds other clients and a caseload and a reputation. And so it just turned into something that not only I really connect with kids with, but I really like it.
That's really neat. And you're right. I mean, you have to, when you're working with teens, you have to know a certain lingo, what they're talking about, right? How the lunch tables work. Like you have to kind of know what it's like to be a teen, but video gaming world is a whole other sort of subset of that.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to have a clinician really get what they're talking about, and also psychologically, like what happens to their brains in this video game world. So tell us a little bit about, again, kind of more, I would say, not harmful video gaming that many kids and teens sort of are doing for pleasure, activities with friends, versus when it becomes a worry, what are red flags that parents need to worry about?
Sure. The first thing I would say is for the vast majority of kids, it's not an issue. It's not something that they need to worry about. Something like 97% of boys and 75% of girls spend some time playing video games or would consider themselves a gamer. Mm-hmm. And 97% of boys are not struggling. This is not this is not for the majority of people, not a harmful thing for their lives. There was a study done where they asked people to imagine their life on a ladder where with 10 rungs, the top rung is the most satisfied you could possibly be with your life. And the bottom is the floor. You're miserable in every aspect. And what they found is that people who played a lot of video games and people who played no video games were about the same. They're both about as satisfied as each other. And then importantly, they asked again 6 weeks later, I think, and they were still just about the same. And if video games were harming these people, you would expect it to either be lower or then to lower over the course of the 6 weeks. And it just didn't. People are generally happy with their lives if they play and happy with their lives if they don't. So generally not something to worry about.
Which is actually a nice piece of news. It's a relief for parents, just that
Yeah.
it's not a terror. It's not like giving your kids drugs if the majority are able to play them recreationally and do just fine. That's good to know.
Yeah. There are two areas where I would suggest people start to look out for, though, because there are, I would say, two broad categories of when video gaming can become a problem.
Right.
The first is to look for signs of depression. And that's if school performance drops suddenly, or, they stop taking a shower, they stop brushing their teeth, they stop losing interest in activities. All the classic symptoms of depression can also show up in video gamers. And for me, I think the correlation there is that video games take up basically no mental energy. And so if you are burnt out with school, everything's going badly for you, you don't have many friends, you're lonely, your school's going bad, you're starting to feel the symptoms of depression, you might just spend all your time playing video games. And that's not necessarily the game's fault. It's just a one sign of a larger issue that parents really can and should look out for.
Mm-hmm.
The other is the sort of addictive, my kid has a problem with the video games themselves category.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when, the kid wants to stop, but can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's different than you telling them you need to stop and they don't do that. That's being a teenager or
Right.
being a kid.
That's most of, I would say, the power struggles that
Yeah.
we hear about is like the child or the teen is playing a video game and it's time to transition into dinner time or, leave out the door. And they're like, but we're in the middle of this round. I mean, that seems really awful for parents. I mean, there's that pull. But what you're describing is something even more serious. You're saying that the teen, him or herself, actually says, I want to stop and I can't.
Yeah, exactly. That it's all right. I know that I have a test tomorrow morning. I need to study and I need to go to bed early. And then they don't study and they don't go to sleep until 4 a.m. And it's because they couldn't turn off the game. That's when it becomes an issue in the addictive side.
Right.
The other way of that is I can't stop myself from spending all of my money on these microtransactions. I've got $20 this week to spend or $20 this month, and I spent all of it again, and now I don't have time. I don't have money to go do something else that I want, and I couldn't stop myself.
Like in the real world, they can't, go get ice cream with their friends because they've spent their money in a video game world. I don't know what's the appropriate world.
Yeah, in a game, sure.
In a virtual world, yes, in a game.
Yeah, the way that I think about this most, and I write about this in my book, is that you can do. Have you heard of a wheel of life? You've probably heard of things like it, where you have the spokes on a wheel. Yeah. So for listeners, it's if you picture a circle, like a pie chart with a bunch of lines coming out from the center. Each wedge is a different part of your life that you find important. You have a wedge for your social life, and you have a wedge for your physical health, and you have a wedge for school performance, and whatever else is important to you. And you take a colored pencil and you color it into how satisfied you are with that area. I'm doing great socially, so I fill that up to a 10. That is all the way up. But physical health is at a 2, and my schoolwork is at a 2, and my family life is at a 3, and I'm not doing well in those areas. That can really, doing that exercise can help point out the holes in our lives. And my goal always is not to stop people from gaming, even if they have even if they say that it's a problem. My goal is more to how do we fill in those other wedges so that we can hopefully keep that as part of your life. If it helps you be social, if it helps you relax, that's fine. Let's find a way to keep that in balance with the rest of your life if we can.
Right. And like you're saying, if physical health is at a 2, let's say the person doesn't move their body at all, and they're spending hours and hours video gaming, it makes sense that
right.
One is if they're really able to start doing a sport or something after school, their time naturally is going to go down of how much time they have left to video game and vice versa.
Right. And to that, I would say I would always encourage people to not just take away the games, but to just add an activity.
Enrich and add. Right.
Yeah. if and you can be creative about this too. If your kid likes fighting games, maybe they want to take karate. If they like
Hmm.
sports games, maybe they'll play that sport. Find a way to add in a way that aligns with their interests, something that will make them uh, fill up some of those other wedges,
Hmm.
something that'll add to the wholeness of their life.
Right. I call it pieces of your pie.
Yeah,
The pie.
exactly.
But
Uh-huh.
yes, the same concept. It makes sense. So let's go back for a moment to the kids who like are not truly addicted, right?
Hmm.
But just act out over video games with their parents, like you're saying, the normal teens who
Hmm.
are dealing with the power struggles. What do you advise parents in terms of how to set limits or how to set parameters around this? Because it can be a daily struggle, even for
Yeah.
those kids like who are doing well in the other areas of their life. But
Hmm.
again, the way that the video game engineers sort of like are making these games,
Hmm.
it's really engaging their attention. It's capturing their
Yep.
attention. It's really hard to just put the controller down. So,
Hmm.
what do you suggest to parents in that kind of camp?
Yeah. So, uh, I'll tell you an anecdote from when I was in high school. It's when Do you remember when American Idol was on and everybody was watching the show?
Yes.
It was on until it was like 8 to 9 p.m. or something. And my brother really, really liked American Idol. And his bedtime was 8:45.
Of
And so at 8:45, every Tuesday, my parents would be like, "All right, go to bed." And he goes, "But I can't.
course. Yeah.
I don't want to go to bed." And it would cause an argument.
Right.
And they didn't understand why. And they were like, he's why is this stupid show causing all these problems? And then they figured out they watched it with him and they realized, oh, right when we're telling him to stop watching is when they're about to announce the winner and who's going to get kicked off. There's no way he's going to leave. He's too
Right.
invested. He really wants to watch this show. He wants to
Right.
know who won. This is the exciting part, and we're
Right.
telling him to stop.
Right.
And they were never going to win. You're not going to beat
No.
American Idol if for a kid who really likes the show. And
Especially if it's only 15 minutes more. Come on.
exactly, just 15 more minutes, and then he would have gone to bed with no problems.
Yeah.
And so relatedly, the best way I think you can stop those arguments and understand why they're happening for your kid is to play with them.
Nice.
And so if you play with your kid, for example, and you find out, oh, this is a game that you can't pause.
Yeah.
This is a game that
Or you lose all your progress or
or you
something.
lose all your progress, right? Or he's playing with friends and they're on a team, and if he turns off the game as soon as I tell him to stop, his friends are going to lose the round. No adolescent is
That's
going to
not
choose that.
cool. Yeah. Yeah.
No. Like they're wired at that point to value their friendships more than their parents. And that's annoying, but that's part of growing
Yeah.
up. We all went through that phase.
Yeah.
And so if you then know that, if you play with them or you talk to them about, well, okay, let's pause this argument. Tomorrow, I'm going to ask you, what happened last night? What is happening in the game? Try
Mhm.
to stay curious. What is happening in the game that makes it hard for you to stop? And that'll give you the information you need to decide, oh, okay, maybe I do want to give him 15 more minutes to finish the round or finish this, whatever. Or you say, you know what? I don't really, or your values tell you, okay, I don't really care that you finished a round. You need to listen to me, but you can at least acknowledge that.
That it's
Say,
hard.
you know
At
what?
least know.
I know that you're in the middle of a round and I know that it's hard, but you really do need to do this thing.
Right. Well, and would that help you coach parents, for example, to maybe set rules around what kind of game they could play in the evening, knowing that
Hmm.
that's going to be an issue, one that again doesn't have the setup that you're describing? Um, because again, that sounds like a tricky
Hmm.
situation in terms of like when you can turn it off and when it's going to cause
Hmm.
more disruption.
Right. And some parents do that. You can play whatever games you want on the weekends when you can play with your friends. But after 6 p.m. on a school night, you have to only play single player games or the ones that don't cause this
Yeah.
disruption
Yeah.
because we know that you can't not fight with us. And
Right.
so I'm not going to take away games for you entirely because that's not the issue right now. It's the
Right.
specific format of the game that's making it so that you are
Right.
not listening to me every night and yelling at me.
Absolutely. No, it seems like a very logical consequence,
Hmm.
that again, not in a punitive kind of way, just more in a proactive way. We're going
Right.
to set you up for success. We totally get it. We empathize that this is
Hmm.
not the kind of game you can put down in the middle and not the kind of game you can have a time limit on because we just don't know where you'll be and who's
Right.
involved. But I like that. Like
Hmm.
this is a Saturday game because Saturdays you don't have anything major going on, and
Hmm.
we're fine with you having that. But
Yeah.
not on a weekday when you have school and we have to wake up and so forth.
Yeah. And another thing that some parents do there is to, instead of saying, all right, you have to stop playing at 9,
Hmm.
they'll say, okay, don't start a new round after 8.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
we know that the games that you play, every round takes about 45 minutes, an hour, depending on how well you're doing. Are you still alive at the hour mark?
Yes.
Fortnite is an elimination game where if you get killed, you're done with the round. But if you're doing really well, you're still playing at the 20
Right.
minute mark.
Right.
And so it might be you need to learn that skill of you don't start a new one
Hmm.
at a certain time rather than you need to stop at a certain point because that the second one's likelier to cause arguments.
Right. No, that makes sense. And the other piece is like we often hear, especially I don't mean to only say boys. I know girls play
Yeah.
too, but it seems like it's more popular still among boys,
Hmm.
and that we hear that this is just an important way for them to socialize. So some
Hmm.
parents who would say that they're sort of anti-video games will be like, but this is where he's hanging out with his friends, and sometimes
Hmm.
they're in a room together, like physical room
Yeah.
playing together, and other times it's again just like at their own houses, but they clearly are still socializing in that way.
Hmm.
Do you see the positive aspects of gaming? And like for non-gaming people like me, can you tell us
Hmm.
a little bit more about what those are?
Yeah, for sure. Are you familiar with the concept of a third place?
No.
It's a sociology concept. The idea is that we've got home, which is one place, and we've got work or school, which is our second place, and then our third places are everywhere else. Those are the roller skating rinks and the bowling alleys and the churches and all the places that are just inherently social.
Okay.
And so those are the places that we find community. Those are the places that we spend time with anyone that we meet new people, all those other considered third places.
Yeah.
And they're going away. That when I was a kid, we had all sorts of them. We had a place called the Firehouse in Highland Park, which was just after school program. You go there, and they've got arcade games, and they've got ping pong tables, and
Hang
community
out.
staff members to it was just a hangout spot. It
Yeah.
doesn't exist anymore. I think they replaced it with condos. And so the kids that I work with have some of them have literally nowhere in their community that doesn't charge them money to be there.
Yeah.
It's
No,
like
you're right. I
it's
mean,
like you could go to
who
the
wants
library.
teenagers hanging out in their place of work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, though. It's sad.
Right. You can go to the library or a playground with playground equipment. And for some of them, that's it. And so when their parents tell them go play outside, they're like, well, where? Where am
There's
I
no one
supposed
to
to
play
go?
with.
There's
Yeah.
nowhere to play it. And sometimes parents haven't caught up to it. No, there aren't any places.
Right.
So it's an understandable adjustment that they would then, all right, I guess I'm going to find a third place online because
Right.
Fortnite is also a third place.
So interesting. Yeah. That
And
makes
so
sense.
a lot of the kids don't want to be doing this either, but they don't have a choice. On school nights, their parents aren't going to let them go out, go to a friend's house, a lot of them. So where do they go? They go online. They want to spend time with their friends.
Right. Which
And
is
so,
again age appropriate for
yeah,
teenagers, right? To
exactly.
spend more time with friends. And we've
Hmm.
talked about on other podcast episodes, like just how it's so sad that there really isn't, because of all the structured activities and everything that's going on in our busy lives these days, there really isn't enough
Hmm.
time for teens to be just hanging out with friends. So it makes
Right.
sense what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's not as good as being in person. Studies have shown that, but it's way better than nothing.
Yeah.
It's better than not being able to see your friends at all. And
Right.
so it, the other studies have shown also that a lot of what is communicated in video games is positive. It's supportive. It's socio-emotional. It's a great job, or I'm over here. I need some help. It's
Hmm.
pro-social
Problem
and
solving and
problem
supportive.
solving, all sorts of things. The places where I would be worried about is if strangers are talking to your kid,
Yes.
and that is
Which games
not
are
all.
those, more popular?
It's all of them.
All of them.
Um, yeah. So one thing the parents need to know is that there are options for voice chat. And this is usually in parental controls, or you can set them yourself as the player, and you can set it to no one can communicate with me, or my friends can communicate with me. My in-game friends, the ones that
Right.
I've designated, or everyone can communicate with me.
Right.
And a lot of games by default will have everybody can communicate with you. The opposing team that's a random bunch of strangers that they paired you up with for this match can also talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's awful. I can't tell you how quickly I turned that off in Grand Theft Auto Online because
Mm-hmm.
it's just slurs and it's toxicity. It's awful. And
Wow.
so if you have the chance, change it to friends only
Yeah,
on everything.
right. Gosh, it's
And
too
that
bad that doesn't exist sort of as a, as the standard, right? That
hmm
instead of opting out of it, like you'd have to opt in to allow
yeah.
something like that.
hmm And it depends on the game, but some of them do is some of them are opt in, some are opt out, but some of them are just yeah, anybody can talk to you, anybody can talk to your children.
Oh,
And if they're a 9-year old whose parents let you play this game because they thought, oh, that's fine, I don't care about I don't, the game seems fine. They're not taking into account that the game might be appropriate, but the people talking to your kid might not be.
right. No,
And when you have enough of
you're not
them, some of
studying
them are
all
going
these
to not be.
strangers. Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Wow. Of
And there's all sorts of harm that can come with that, of course.
course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. So, how will parents sort of know? And like, obviously, you have an entire practice, it
hmm
sounds like, of, teens who have come to you or young adults, even, where they have crossed that line between recreational gaming
hmm
and, truly like more of a disorder.
Yeah.
How do parents tease that apart? What do you see in your practice
hmm
that says, okay, now we actually have to do some clinical work?
Yeah. Do you have your DSM with you?
I do. Should I hold it up?
Yeah, page 795.
I was going to say, I didn't think in this one it was official
It's in there.
in
It's
there.
it's
Okay.
it's not an official condition. It's a condition
Right.
for further study, but
Okay.
it's got criteria. It's in the back, 795.
795. Yeah. Proposed criteria.
Yeah.
Okay. For internet gaming disorder.
Yeah. So for listeners, there's a big purple book that therapists use to help, keep track of all the criteria for all the different diagnoses. And gaming disorder, or I think it's called internet gaming disorder
In that one.
in the book, is not an official diagnosis, but it's one that they're considering.
Right.
And the symptoms are the criteria, the symptoms are video games becoming the predominant activity in everyday life, withdrawal symptoms like irritability or anxiety when you can't play,
Mm.
needing to spend increasing amounts of time to feel satisfied, unsuccessful attempts to control gaming. That's the key one I mentioned earlier that you have tried to control,
Right.
but you've been unsuccessful.
The person himself has tried, not just the parents. Right.
Yeah. Loss of interest in previous hobbies, using video games despite social problems,
Mm.
lying to others about the amount of time spent gaming, using video games to escape negative mood, and then risking or losing a significant relationship, job, or other opportunity because of the games.
Right. So
And so,
not going to school, right? Not
right.
studying for the test because
hmm
you're totally in the zone.
Right. And you try and you can't get yourself to stop.
Right. Right.
And so that's where it becomes a clinical addiction is if you meet, I think it's 5 of those 9 criteria. And some of them can be argued against, what kid doesn't lie about how much time they spent gaming, but it's, as a larger
Yeah.
pattern that is also causing you harm. That's where it
Right.
becomes an actual
I mean,
addiction,
I
theoretically.
was going to say, and I'm curious about like addiction in the brain. And, we talk about with substance
hmm
abuse, for example, that often it runs, unfortunately, in families. And
hmm
so kind of being aware of, do you have a predisposition toward,
hmm
addiction? I'm curious if that's the same for internet, for video gaming.
Yeah, there's evidence to suggest that people who, for example, have a problem with gambling
Hmm.
might also have a problem with video games. People who have substance use disorders are more likely to have a gaming problem also.
Right. Right.
And so it does seem like there's probably a predisposition. Some
Yeah.
people just have that addictive personality that gets hooked by different things. And if for somebody that happens to be video games, then yeah, that's it.
Right.
And for me, the strongest evidence that I've seen for video game addiction is that people who have those criteria for games and also have a substance use disorder, an addiction to something else, they say that they feel very similar. I feel, they would know the most of anybody, and they say that,
Right.
oh, that's the same part of my brain that gets itched.
Yeah. Gets hooked. Right.
hmm
Wow. Wow. So can you kind of take us through, of course, a de-identified case that someone
hmm
who's come to you really, it sounds like in a bad way and what were their initial sort of presenting symptoms? Why were they
Hmm.
coming to you? And I'm curious both about kind of what would happen in the therapy room with you, as
Hmm.
well as kind of how you'd guide parents in terms of what they do at home. Because again, parents do have control still at the
Hmm.
end of the day, over a large part of the treatment, I would think, of a teenager.
Sure. So I've thought about two cases that I can present. One of them is a college student, so the parents were less involved. And the second one
Okay.
is a middle schooler where the parents were very involved.
Okay.
So for the first one, somebody came to me. I'm sort of combining cases to de-identify them, but
Yes, of
uh,
course.
he came to me because he had failed out of college. Then he had gone for a semester and had held on for a while, but then dropped off. He played World of Warcraft, which is a MMORPG, which is massively multiplayer online role-playing game, which basically means it's a world that, you know, thousands or millions of people can share at the same time. You're all walking around, you can see each other, and it's a role-playing game. So you have a role. This person was a healer, but I forget what. Anyway, um, but the point to that is that it's an online social game where he had a specific role on a team.
Mhm.
So he's got a group of friends and there's 15 or 20 of them and they all get together and they all play, and he was one of the main people that they needed to complete some of the quests. He was a healer, so if anybody got injured, they needed his help. And so if he needed to do his homework and the other 14 people wanted to go online and play, it's really hard to say no,
Mhm.
especially if your friends
And
are
there's
counting on
there's
you.
no one else that like pops in to be the healer if someone's not in that
Right,
role.
your friends are just out of
They're
luck.
just without the healer.
Yeah, and they're not gonna be able to complete the quest. They're not gonna be able to
Right.
do the thing. And
Wow.
so if you're someone who really values that group of that friend
Yeah,
group,
that community.
yeah, and that was his only social support. And so if they're saying, oh, we come on, man, we just need to don't go to sleep yet. We'll just finish this one thing. And sometimes those can take 2 hours to beat a raid. And so he couldn't say no. You can't say no to that. If it's your whole friend group saying, you're a loser if you go log off right now. And so he wouldn't. And so he'd tell himself, okay, well, all right, I guess I can skip this homework assignment. I guess I can stay up late. I don't have to prepare for this test. And so his
Hmm.
grades dropped. He stopped going to class sometimes because he needed to play during the day or was staying up too late to wake himself up. So he failed out of college. And so then he said, look, I need help. I need someone's help to figure out how do I manage this? Because I don't want to lose. I don't want to stop playing video games entirely. That's the only time that I'm social.
Right. It makes
And
sense
so,
that
yeah.
it becomes like all consuming in that situation.
Hmm.
Wow.
And so for the treatment, we needed to build social. We didn't want to just take away the game. You don't just uninstall the game because then he's got nobody. And that's in some ways that for him it's unacceptable. And in other ways that's somehow worse than
Yeah,
having
I was going to say
friends, but also a problem.
it sounds like, this community
Hmm.
online. I mean, as much as again, clearly it's impacting his functioning in a really bad way, it's providing some positive source of not feeling isolated, of support, of camaraderie. And
Hmm.
like you're saying, you can't just rip it off until you've put something else in place.
Exactly. So that's what we did. Is we did some work on reducing the shame that he felt for having failed, because of
Mm,
course it was important to him. He really wanted to be in college, but wasn't able to be successful. And
yeah.
so there was a lot of shame that we had to work with as well. We did some work with values. I have these values cards that I like in my office that are, what do you value? Integrity and friendship and, honesty. And I don't value popularity. I don't value, so you sort them out and you look at them and you say, am I living uh, in accordance with those values those, let's
Mhm,
say 5 things that I care about the most?
mhm.
What decisions would lead me closer to things that I really care about? So we did some work with that, and he did value education. He also valued friendship, though,
Yeah.
and those were butting heads.
Well, right. And was there a history in terms of like why was he so unable to make real friends in college for this particular young man?
Hmm. He was kind of awkward. He was just somebody for whom it's hard to make friends. He didn't put himself out there, didn't feel able to,
Comfortable. Yeah.
where a lot of the other students were going up to one another at the at the lunchroom or the cafeteria, or they were going to parties, or they were walking up to classmates after class and saying, "Hi, I'm so and so." He wasn't doing any of that, and because he didn't feel able to. And
Hmm.
so some of that was also we need to build a social support network for you outside of this game.
Right.
And so he ended up playing. We found an in-person D&D group where it's your same interests, but it's in person and it is separate from this other group. You want to diversify your friends.
Hmm. And
And so we decided, all right, well, when you go back to college in the fall or in the spring or whenever it was, what clubs exist that you might consider joining? Because that in my mind, that's the best and
right.
easiest way to
Something,
make
someone with
friends.
similar interests. It's like a
Yeah.
structured day and time. You just show up and
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a very natural, easy way to make friends.
Right.
Let's join those as well.
Right.
And then the hardest part was trying to figure out, are these my friends online? And so the experiment we did was,
Mm.
and I talk about this in my book as well. If what is a friend, and what would a friend do if you had homework and you had to log off?
Right.
Well, what would a friend do if you said, "Look, I need to go to sleep. I'm
I'm gonna
tired. I
fail
got a
this
test in the
class. I can't
morning."
be the healer this round,
Right. A friend would tell you, "Okay, we'll play tomorrow, whatever, go do your thing." A friend would care about you and care about your success. And
Absolutely.
these people weren't doing that. So are they your friends?
Hmm.
And then, okay, well, let's test it. So eventually, with a lot of help and guidance, let's practice actually saying, "No, I need to stop." And if they let you stop,
And to
then
see
maybe
what their reaction is.
yeah. And then let's do this as an experiment. And if they let you stop, then actually that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Maybe I can do that more often during the semester. And
Hmm.
if they don't let you stop and they get mad at you, those might not be as supportive people as you thought they were.
Right. Right. Wow. So it's the first introducing kind of more socialization and
Hmm.
helping him make some real friends in the real
Hmm.
world. Then sort of testing out kind of who is this community? Are they really
Hmm.
supportive or not? And helping him play and experiment with, can he say no in the middle of a round? Can
Hmm.
he say no to the next round and have it in moderation? And I'm
Hmm.
wondering, or is it sometimes or I can't do it at all? I'm curious if it ever gets to that point.
Right.
I mean, like with an alcoholic,
Hmm.
you would say you can never have alcohol ever,
Right. It
right?
does get
You
to
have a
that point
sip, you can't
sometimes.
have a glass of wine, like never. I'm
Hmm.
curious if for a video gamer, if it's ever that extreme where you say you can never pick up a remote control, or
Hmm.
if you're saying it's just more like knowing the days and times that you're able to do it, knowing how your brain circuitry works,
Hmm.
you're going to get hooked.
It does get to that point sometimes. There are a lot of people. There's a subreddit called Stop Gaming, which is a community of people that all have gaming disorder or similar.
Wow.
And it's a support network for people who are there. There's Gaming Addicts Anonymous,
Right. I was going to
which
say
is a
it sounds
12.
like that. Hmm.
Yeah, there's also a Gaming Addicts Anonymous. I haven't personally vetted that, but it exists as
Hmm.
a resource if people are really concerned and want to see what it's like to go through a 12 step about video games. It exists. It's out there. And so
Right.
there are definitely people who say, you know what? I am not the kind of person who, even in a single player solitaire kind of game, I can't do it. I can't not play for 10 hours and then hate myself the next day if I
Mhm.
try any game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, those people absolutely exist.
Yeah.
And
But in your
hopefully,
work with this college young adult,
mhm.
is he able to kind of have some more balance at the end of the work and still have some video gaming? I'm curious
Yeah,
how
he
how the story ends. I interrupted you mid.
no, so he was able to go back. He was successful and still played sometimes, but switched over to a less serious group of players because he decided, you know what, screw these guys. They're not letting me succeed. They're not at my real friends. But I could find a couple of people at the college who play, and
Yeah.
we all have obligations. Then we're not
Right.
going to make each other stay up at night. So
Right.
he just found a better community for him, and then the game was fine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. That's incredible. So he
Hmm.
took and this young man took a semester or a year off. How long did he take off to kind of work through this? Because again, it sounds like it really was impacting his day-to-day functioning.
Yeah, he took the semester off.
Yeah.
He
Wow.
was, I forget what it's called, academic leave,
Yeah.
basically, where
Yeah.
you take a semester, get your act together and come back and try again. Because
Wow.
colleges don't want to kick you out entirely if you can
Right.
figure out what's going on and come back. So he was
Right.
able to do that. It
That's
was great.
incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible. And so lucky he found you.
hmm
Wow. So tell us about the middle school
So
kiddo.
there's again combination of
Yeah,
clients, but
that's fine.
it was a school refusal case. So again, it was issues with school. That in young people, that's often how it shows up. That's sort of the litmus test: is are they doing well in school or not?
Right.
And for this kid, it was he had skipped school for something like 2 or 3 months. He was playing video games for 12 hours a day and was not going to school. Would refuse, throw tantrums, wouldn't do it. Couldn't get him to go.
Can I pause you for 1 second and just
Yeah.
like
hmm
this can't wait.
Yeah.
So if he's playing video games 12 hours a day instead of
hmm
school,
Yep.
what are the parents doing that they're not literally throwing it out the window? I mean, because it sounds like this wasn't a subtle situation. This was
No.
so what was going on for them?
They just felt like it was too hard to take it away from him. It was the only thing that made him happy. Whenever they tried, like, all right, we're going to turn this off for the next day or two, he was sullen, he was angry, and they just thought, this is better than the alternative of just anger and throwing stuff. We'll just give it to him and let him play.
Wow, it's like a pacifier. Yeah.
It's like a pacifier, yeah.
Wow.
And
I've
so,
heard stories where not specific to video gaming, but like,
mhm,
where a parent had done something like that. And I'm like, to help me understand what, because
mhm,
obviously you think, take it away. And they said, well, my child then threatened suicide,
mhm,
So I've heard stories that are like
right.
really kind of like, gut wrenching like that, where I'm like,
Mhm,
okay, I kind of understand a little more how
yeah.
difficult this is, but it's just such an extreme situation. Okay, keep going.
mhm. So when we did some more exploration with this kid, and there's a reason that you're not going to school.
Right.
And it turns out that for this kid, there were several. The kids were being mean to him. He was getting bullied. He was scared of his teachers being mad at him when he came back. Because if he was thinking, if I go back into the building, I'm going to get yelled at by every authority figure because I'm failing
Oh,
their classes. I haven't been there. They're going to be so mad at me. And he was just, that thought of not only going into the school and the students being mean to him, but the teachers being mean to him and the principal being mean to
yeah.
him, he couldn't handle it. And so video games became his coping mechanism.
Hmm.
It became, I'm too stressed out right now. I need to just play a game because I don't have to think when I'm playing a video game.
Hmm. Well, it's an escape.
Exactly. And so, uh, for this kid, it was we need to build up some coping mechanisms. We needed to work on distress tolerance. We need to work on, all right, we would play games together in my office,
Mhm.
and it was okay. Um, let's play this game for a while, and then for 5 minutes, 2 minutes at first, we're going to stop and we're just going to think about what's going on, and we're going to be mindful, and we're going to deep breathe like we talked about. And eventually, that 2 minutes became 5 minutes, became 10 minutes. I can tolerate having a conversation about my life.
Mm.
And then let's also start making a plan. Let's, with your parents' help, let's go talk to some teachers. Let's see if
Mhm.
they are as mad as you think they are, because I don't think that they are. I think
Right.
that your teachers just want you to succeed. And, we know that this is not a sustainable situation. You can't outrun this forever. But you sort of think that you can if you can just never think about it. You can keep outrunning those feelings. And so eventually we were able to say, okay, well, can we get you into the building for
Mhm.
an hour a day for one class?
Baby
You can
steps. Right.
baby steps. And then eventually what became the strategy was once you feel comfortable and safe being in the school environment, then we start adding expectations. So you can always play on weekends
Hmm.
at first. And then you can play Monday, Wednesday, Friday if you have gone to school that day. Or if you can play on a day when you have
Of
gone to
course.
school.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can always play on weekends, no matter what you did during the week, because we don't want to take it away from you entirely. We don't. You are talking to friends. That's great.
Hmm.
And then you add in, okay, you can play on weekends if you went to school at least one day that week. And then you
Yeah.
add another expectation. You had to have gone to school for 2 days that week for a few hours.
Yes.
Then you can play on the weekends as much as you want. And then you build up those expectations until it was, okay, you have to do all of your homework for the night and an extra assignment if you want to play that day. And then on the weekends, you have to do that 4 days of the week or something. And so we just built up that gradually over time. And the kid was able to get back in and reintegrate.
Unbelievable. I mean, such powerful work. I mean, really, it's just incredible.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of credit to the parents as well. But it was, it's hard to hold those expectations, to hold those limits and be firm
Yeah.
and not let up because it's easier and understandably so to just let the kid have what he wants when he's throwing stuff at you.
Yeah. No, 100% in the short term, that is
Hmm.
the easier thing.
Yeah.
I'm curious though, if in that type of situation,
Hmm.
I understand what you're saying. You don't want to remove this community and this world
Hmm.
if you've really got nothing else at that time. Anyone, not this
Yeah.
particular, anyone. But I am curious if it's gotten to that point, like, is there a situation where you would say, we're unplugging this, we're putting it, grandma's house, like it's not even
Hmm.
in the physical house, so they can't tantrum and get it back.
Hmm.
And like you're saying, we'll bring it back for the weekends,
Hmm.
but until you go to school, because in your situation, it sounds like you really did keep it as part of, it was there.
Hmm. Right.
But I'm just curious if what would be the pros and cons about like physically removing it? Just I could see that being such a power struggle, like,
Oh yeah.
trying so hard to get it.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's the hardest part for parents is how do I hold firm and in a situation where the kid could just steal it, could just get it back from your room if you have it there,
Right.
or find a way around the parental controls because your kids are
Right.
better than you
Right.
are
That's what I'm saying. Like, I
at
feel like literally if it's in the house, it would be a problem for this
yeah.
person. I mean, again, not any teenager, but someone
Hmm.
who's really this into it.
Right. And what I always say is the best way to teach somebody to pick locks is to lock up the iPad. Because I've had kids learn how to, jimmy the lock and get it open because they can't not go without it. It's their only way of calming themselves down. It's their only way of connecting with their
Their
friends.
accident. Right.
Right.
So
And
you're
so
so you're just saying it's better to learn to live with it as opposed to,
I don't know if better. I would try to do this route first.
first. Okay.
You might get to the point where no, you can't have it right now
Hmm.
until you are more able to manage your emotions, until you're able to follow expectations. The thing that I would caution there is that if this really is the kid's only coping skill, then you take that away, it's more likely to go badly than well.
Yeah. Right. It's hard to picture. You're right. It's still
Hmm.
providing some kind of positive
Right. Because for a
coping.
lot of kids, and this is going to sound judgmental, but it breaks my heart when parents use the iPad as the calm down button
Yeah.
because then their kids grow up. These are, 2-year-olds who are crying and their parents are holding up. All right, well, no, here's the iPad, calm down. And then when they're 10 and you need to punish them and you take away the device because that's what the punishment people do, but that's the only way they've ever learned how to calm themselves down. They're not gonna be able to do it. You've never
No.
taught them how to breathe and think about their emotions
Right.
and journal and go for,
Right.
go for a run or something.
Right. Absolutely. No, I think that that's a whole generation of
Hmm.
kiddos coming your way in terms of
Yeah.
emotional regulation,
Hmm. Right.
being a primary presenting issue, like you said, because of the screens and because of
Hmm.
parents never having had the opportunity to learn it the other way.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
it's a really good point. So, yeah, I mean, this is fascinating. So, for parents out there,
Hmm.
I'm hearing, we need to figure out sort of what's underlying when it crosses that
Hmm.
threshold. We have to figure out what's missing from their lives that
Yeah.
they're kind of going this place, whether it's
Hmm.
social anxiety or they're getting bullied at school and they've no awareness of how to talk about feelings,
Hmm.
distress tolerance. So that's good to keep in mind. I was going to say,
Hmm.
what other kind of things would you tell parents who are listening just to kind of make sure they're proactive when they do give a kiddo a gaming device for the first time? Like what
Hmm.
kind of limits and rules would be helpful to set up?
Yeah. So parental controls, if you can set it up so that strangers don't talk to your kids, do
Right.
that.
Right.
That's always the best
Like
option
that's number
is
one.
yeah, that's number one for me. And that's actually, as an aside, why it's one of the reasons that Roblox is such a problem.
Yeah.
Because Roblox doesn't have that middle only friends can talk to me option. It really is only everybody can talk to me or nobody can talk to me. And so if you have a middle school kid who wants to talk to his friends on Roblox, they're also every stranger can talk to them. And that's caused some major problems. The company's being sued, but I think there are 20 different lawsuits against Roblox right now for allowing people to, really dangerous people to come and groom their children and hurt their children, and it gets bad quickly.
Yeah.
So if you can set up parental controls that just automatically, when you download a game, does this game have public chat? If so, turn it off.
Yeah.
Number one. The second and maybe most important advice I have is to play with your kids.
Yeah, I love that.
I mean, it's a great opportunity to bond, first off, but it also is, it's a great way to sort of monitor covertly what are your kids doing.
Yeah.
It's got a built-in what is it about this game
Mhm.
that is causing my kid to blow up when I tell him to stop. And if you've played with them, then you know what the game is and why.
Mhm.
And you can have the language to understand, okay, well, if your kid says I'm in a raid, you know what that means, and you can make an informed decision based on
Right.
that.
Right. Absolutely. I also think of this kiddo as wanting connection, it's
Hmm.
like, I'm not saying this is the number one way to bond with your child over video games, but
Yeah.
it is nicer that they're spending time like with the mom or the dad playing video games than again, just
Hmm.
by themselves in the basement for hours and hours. So it's a nice thing. But like you say, that you get to see what they're really
Yeah.
doing.
Who's talking to your kid?
Yeah.
You can hear them if you're with them in the room and you hear somebody yell something. You're like, oh, this is not what I thought when I downloaded this game. Um,
Absolutely.
it also gives you an opportunity to model positive behavior. Because
Hmm.
if your kid watches Twitch streamers, which is just people playing video games online for a live audience, the they're competing with millions of other people who are also trying to make a living streaming themselves playing video games, which is it's a big thing. And the problem is that if you want to stand out, you need to be either really, really good at the game or really entertaining. And entertaining sometimes means blowing up when you lose,
Right.
smashing keyboards. And so if those are the role models your kids have for, all right, how do I act? How am I supposed to act when I lose a game?
Oh my gosh.
And the only version they have is somebody smashing a keyboard, that's not going to help.
It's so sad that this is what they're watching,
Mhm.
what they're
Yeah.
exposed to. Yeah.
And it's entertaining. It's just not a good example of what you should actually do. These are entertainers. They're not role models. I would argue. So, but you can be a better example if you're next to your kid and you laugh at yourself when they kick your butt, and they will kick your butt because you're a parent and they're the gamer.
Not professional.
Yeah, they're little professionals, and so, but you can be like, wow, that was great. You did you I messed up there. That was hilarious.
Hmm.
Versus, and they can see, oh, that is also a way to do that. That might be healthier. People might respond more positively to me if I just congratulate them when they beat me versus yelling at them.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Wow, it is unbelievable terrain out there. It's just,
Hmm.
like you said, the different
Yep.
games. I mean, there's so much to know.
Yeah.
The last thing I'm thinking about, and then
Yeah.
we'll kind of start to wrap up, but is I had met a few therapists who, when you walked into their office,
Hmm.
really wonderful therapists, but they had the video game consoles on their walls
Hmm.
and the TV had
Yep.
hooked up. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like the parents know they're paying however
Hmm.
much,
Yeah.
hour, and that you're playing video games. Like, how do
Hmm.
they respond? And my thought was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna not be happy. But I love just hearing, I was gonna say, I love hearing from you about like why it's so important to
Yeah.
start that way and build
Hmm.
in. It sort of sounds like more of like an exposure, like you're building in the ability to stop, pause for
Hmm.
5 minutes, breathe, talk, like what's going on that, you have to pause
Yeah.
in vivo as opposed to
Hmm.
just talking about what's happening in the home. So I'm curious again for you, like if you could talk a little bit more about just how you describe what you're doing with parents, because I think
Sure.
that's the part where, some parents may be really like turned off. Like I'm trying to get my kid to stop using video games, and here you are playing with them in the session.
Hmm.
What do you
Yeah.
typically tell them?
Yes. And so the first and most obvious way is that it helps people feel comfortable. It increases buy-in. If
Yeah.
your kid doesn't want to go to therapy, it's a little easier to get them in the door if you can say, but you can play Mario Kart while you're there. And so then it helps me just get them engaged and
Yeah.
Just get them to be willing to sit there. Because a lot of young people, if they don't want to be in therapy, you can't get them to sit there.
Right.
And so that's barrier one that gets rid of.
Right.
Barrier two is it's easier to have a conversation if you're both looking at a screen and you're doing something casual and you throw in a, hey, so how's school going, by the way?
Right. You don't have to have
Versus,
eye contact across the
yeah, you staring at a therapist who's, arms politely folded across their lap that's intimidating.
Yeah.
That's why every therapist has a deck of Uno cards in their office, because it's just easier when you're doing something casual. And for a lot of these kids, it's all right, let's play Smash Bros or something.
Yeah.
So it helps me get increased buy-in, build rapport, and then also helps me sort of secretly practice some skills.
Mm-hmm.
Where one of the challenges with learning how to regulate your emotions is noticing when you are upset.
Mm-hmm.
It's something a lot of people take for granted, but just knowing, for some of these kids, they say, well, I just go from a 1 to a 10 and then I blow up and I break things.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think that you do. I think that you're not noticing 2 through 9.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I can do then is play Mario Kart, which is a very frustrating game. You could be in first place and you get hit with an explosion of a blue shell comes and hits you, and then you're in sixth place. That's really frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I can do as a therapist is sort of look over and say, hey, it looks like, let's pause the game for a second. Your knee's bouncing. You're kind of bouncing in your chair and you seem really frustrated. What do you notice right now? How does your body feel? Do you feel warm? Do you feel what is because it looks like you're feeling pretty frustrated right now. What does that actually feel like? How can you notice that when you start feeling that in the future?
Right.
And then also, how can we help you calm down from that feeling so that when you're at a 6, you can get back to a 1
Right.
versus waiting for it to be a 10.
It's like they'll say, I was, obviously limbic system took over, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no turning back.
Mhm.
So it sounds like you're helping them to kind of figure out the signs earlier, the cues earlier.
Exactly. And then just as an aside, as advice to therapists, one of the best ways that I talk to kids about that problem of I just blow up and I reach this point and I'm too angry and I can't make decisions anymore. It's like I black out and I'm not myself anymore. Okay. So, and then I always say, do you know who Bruce Banner is? And they say, Bruce Banner, like the Hulk? I said, yeah, Bruce Banner, like the Hulk. Yeah, when he gets really, really angry, he turns green and big and then throws cars and loses control of himself. And they go, oh, yeah, he does do that. Okay, great. We're on the same page. If you were Bruce Banner's friend, what advice would you give him? And they usually go, oh, I would say don't get angry. No, that's not really an option. Everybody gets angry. What would you do? And then we can sort of walk them through, okay, well, you would probably want to know when you're getting angry and then be able to calm yourself down when you do that. And in the comics and the movies, he like goes to Tibet and learns to meditate, and he does all these things to proactively calm himself down. He wears a heart rate monitor. He does all sorts of things to not get to 10. His 10 is dangerous for him. And it sounds very similar for you, client, that when you get to a 10, it's bad and you don't want to get there. So what can we do to help you notice when you're earlier, calm yourself down? And video games are a great way to practice that skill of getting annoyed and then calming back down.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. It's such a great, tool that you can use, especially with the population who's coming to see you. It's really awesome. And it sounds like you explain it in such a way that parents understand the value, and aren't having that reaction like, oh, so I love it. So we're gonna wrap up. This has been so helpful. Sure. Obviously, everyone who's listening who has any interest in learning more about, raising a video gamer and kind of how to deal with this whole world, you should order Andrew's book on Amazon. Exactly, Parenting a Gamer. Yep. What are other resources that you would recommend, whether books or podcasts, really anything to help parents who are interested in learning more about this topic in addition to the book?
Sure. The other resource that I would recommend the most is Common Sense Media. It's almost a Wikipedia of games and movies and what is appropriate and what is not in each of those. Does this video game have good role models? Does this video game have smoking? Does it have nudity? Does it have violence? Can people talk to your kids in each of these games?
Right.
And so it's a great way to start. The best way is to then play with your kids and see, is this accurate? Is the kind of violence they're describing? Am I okay with that? Am I
Mhm.
okay with the actual people who are talking to my kid, not just in the abstract? So play with your kids. But
Right.
common sense media is a great first step to understand, is this a game that I would want to purchase for my child, to
Right.
understand what is the content of the game. So that's the other one that I would really
Amazing.
recommend people check out.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's really helpful because I think, technology and the games, everything evolves so quickly
Hmm.
that we really can't wait for the research to catch up.
Hmm.
So I'm sure
Right.
Common Media is just like more quick to update, what
Exactly.
we need to
Yeah. As
know.
soon
And
as the game comes out, people have already
yeah, amazing.
posted opinions on it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for sharing your time and your expertise with us. I mean, this was
Yeah. Thank you very
invaluable.
much for having me.
Absolutely. And everyone, please check out more episodes of our podcast. Go to copingpartners.com and click on podcasts and articles. And thank you, as always, for tuning in.
Thank you for listening to the Coping Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes. And check out our podcast page at copingpartners.com.